I've never believed in ghosts, and I still don't like using that word for what happened. I'm the kind of person who double-checks locks, keeps spreadsheets for personal expenses, and assumes there's a rational explanation for most things. That's probably why it took me longer than it should have to realize something was wrong. At the time, I was working as a junior accountant for a mid-sized logistics company. Nothing glamorous. Beige walls, gray carpet with darker stains worn into the walking paths, and that faint smell every office has of dust, burnt coffee, and recycled air. The building was 5 stories tall, built sometime in the late 90s, and after 7 p.m., it became almost completely empty. That winter, we were behind on audits, so I volunteered to stay late a few nights a week. It was easier to concentrate when the phones stopped ringing and the fluorescent lights stopped flickering on and off in neighboring cubicles. Most nights, by 9 p.m., I was the only person left on my floor. The first night something caught my attention. I didn't think much of it. I remember because it was unusually quiet. Not just after-hours office quiet, but the kind where you start to notice sounds your brain usually filters out. The low hum of the ventilation system, the distant ticking of a wall clock down the hall. Every time I shifted in my chair, the vinyl made a soft squeak that sounded louder than it should have. Around 9:40, I got up to refill my water bottle. As I walked toward the break room, I glanced out the large window at the end of the hall. Our building overlooked a parking lot, and beyond that, a low industrial strip of warehouses. Most of the lights were off by then. That's when I noticed a single light on inside our building, directly across from me. It was on the 3rd floor. At first, I assumed someone else was working late, maybe IT or maintenance. The light was steady, not flickering, and it came from one of the corner offices. I even felt a small sense of relief at the idea that I wasn't completely alone in the building. I finished filling my water bottle and went back to my desk. About 20 minutes later, I shut down my computer and packed up to leave. As I passed the window again, I glanced out of habit. The light was still on. That didn't strike me as strange until I realized something else. The 3rd floor was closed for renovations. It had been that way for weeks. Plastic sheeting over the elevators, signs taped to the stairwell doors, no furniture, no staff, no power. At least, that's what we'd been told. I stood there for a few seconds longer than necessary, staring at that one square of yellowish light against an otherwise dark building. Eventually, I shrugged it off. Renovation schedules change. Someone probably forgot to turn it off. The next night, I stayed late again. Same floor, same silence, same stale smell of old carpet and printer toner. At exactly 9:37 p.m., I noticed the light turn on. I know the time because my phone buzzed with a low battery warning just as it happened. 1 second, the 3rd floor was dark. The next, that same corner office was lit, like someone had flipped a switch. That was the first moment I felt that uncomfortable tightening in my stomach. Not fear exactly, more like confusion mixed with the sense that I was missing a piece of information everyone else had. I told myself it was probably automated lighting, timers, motion sensors. Old buildings do weird things at night. Still, I waited by the window for a full minute, expecting to see movement, a silhouette, a shadow passing behind frosted glass. Nothing. On the 3rd night, I tested a theory. I stayed late on purpose, but instead of leaving, I pretended to leave. I shut down my computer loudly, let my chair roll back, even jingled my keys as I walked down the hall. Then, I ducked into the stairwell and waited, standing in the dark with the faint smell of concrete and dust filling my nose.